Hello! This episode of Watch Out for Fireballs is brought to you by Abe, who sponsored it, of course, but also by all our patrons at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Patrons such as Handpan, Malaki, Daniel Hadley, Matt Kaiser, and Robert Fenner. Thanks, folks. We really appreciate you. If you would like to support us, head on over to patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we're talking about Heretic, which is a 2.5D first-person shooter developed by Raven Software and published by id Software for the PC in 1994.
Yeah. And this episode was executive produced by Abe. Thank you,
Thank you, Abe.
Yeah. We're going to be a little stumbly. We haven't recorded for a little bit. This is after our vacation.
Yes.
So for you, only a week has passed between the Edith Finch episode and this. But for us, an eternity.
Yeah, a week and a half.
Yes. Which of not being on mic generally.
True.
So it feels very different.
I forgot my manners. Yeah, this is the first recording session of the new year.
Yeah. So no manners, you clod. How much money do you make and what is your religion? Do you like abortion or do you think it rots? Clod.
We both know these things about each other.
I know. I was just trying to think of manners. I even forgot what that means. This is, this game a little bit. This is, medieval. This is D&D Doom. It's a medieval fantasy version of Doom. It's a fantasy setting. It's been taken over by three evil beings called the Serpent Riders.
Yeah. And this first entry, you're going after, you're playing as Corvus. You're one of these she-elves, S-I-D-H-E, Gaelic word, I believe. And you're going on the warpath against one of the Serpent Riders, the weakest of them, Desperal, who destroyed your homeland.
Yes. This first kind of base game takes place over 3 episodes as you kind of make your way through the ruins of your hometown, and you go to hell because it's a 1994 shooter, and then Desperal's domain. There's more to the story where you fight the other Serpent Riders. That happens in the extra episodes, and then Hexen and Hexen 2, Heretic 2, all that stuff. We're not covering that today.
No.
Just doing base Heretic, which is built on the Doom engine. So it'll feel very familiar to that with some kind of important upgrades.
Yeah. Do we need to describe Doom? You run around real quickly. You shoot at a lot of enemies. You're waving through slow motion projectile shots, and also managing your own slow motion projectile shots. That's like the secret of the early Doom kind of deal.
Yes. Yeah. And this one, it's worth, I'm sure you have a note of this later, but it's worth talking about here. One of the big differences of this is that the enemies all have slow moving projectile shots, compared to Doom, where some enemies have hit scan. So you'd have one of those commander guys, to snipe you across the map with a machine gun. That doesn't happen here.
No.
And it's an immediate, my thesis for this episode is that Doom is Doom and has better music and has better weapons. I think there are several ways in which this is better than Doom, which breaks my heart because I love Doom. But dude, one of the ways is that you can always dodge stuff.
Yeah.
It's way more arcadey because there's no hit scan.
Yeah. This is a tricky game to talk about, and I do not envy Raven or id trying to market this, because the inevitable backlash is what you're going to get, which is this looks and feels an awful lot like Doom. That said, I mean, there is just so much just kind of playing around on the margins and adding in these additional systems that do make this an appreciably different game.
Well, it's also at the time, I don't think they had to worry about that because this looks like Doom was a huge selling point.
Yeah.
In 94. That's a history thing. This is, I played this before the break because I didn't want to work during my break. And so I was looking today, I was refreshing myself with YouTubes and I was looking through the TV tropes about it. And the TV tropes, the person who wrote it, I know that's not a source. Like I'm not like, exposing some kind of big thing, but it doesn't seem like they played it. Like there's a lot of the word seem, like it seems to be this, it seems to be this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it kind of is, but there's a lot more to it. It does justify itself.
Yeah.
Out of the shadow of doom, I think, if you actually spend some time with it and take it on its own terms.
Yeah. I think
in a few real key kind of ways, even though it's undeniably like a Doom clone, like feels like Doom.
Yeah.
But there are differences.
I guess I'm basing that initial reckon, and like, oh yeah, this would be tough to sell to a certain degree, just based on the review snippets that I have seen from the time, this is hitting around the time that like Doom clone is becoming a pejorative, right?
Yeah. The critics were getting sick of it.
Yeah.
But I do think that, in terms of like the single biggest differences in this, one of the biggest is the enemies not having hit scan weapons.
Yeah.
Nobody having hit scan weapons except for you with your shit ass, your weak
little
weapons.
wand. Yeah.
Your little tiny baby wand is a game changer. And it's how Doom should have been.
Absolutely.
Even though it would have been silly to fire shotgun bullets that's slowly like around the screen. But like, yeah, projectiles are so much better than hit scan weapons.
Yeah. So also similar to Doom, level structure. You have these levels that are built around colored keys and gates, kind of unlocking new areas. You're searching for those for the hidden keys, and then ultimately the places to use them. That is consistent throughout. Like there's like one level that only has 2 keys later on.
Yeah, what a breather. Even this, like, like when it goes into kind of how this is level designed differently, even that I think plays a little bit better. I think these spaces emulate like a dungeon a lot better than Doom's like sci-fi corridors. And there's a lot more thought put into, like, it's more like you explore a spoke and then get a key at the end of the spoke, which brings you into another spoke.
I mean, this is kind of Raven's thing, right? And I've never played any of this is the earliest Raven game that I've played. But I associate them with really knowing what they're doing with a level editor. And it is kind of neat to come back to something this early from them that bears that out.
Yeah. It's not perfect or anything, but compare with Doom, where it oftentimes felt like a maze. Like I was looking at these levels from the top down, like through the maze, looking up the map when you're playing and then looking them up online, and they just look like D&D dungeons almost exactly. Like if you were playing an old school D&D campaign, you could do way worse than just to lift these layouts because they look exactly like shit in Dungeon Magazine.
Yeah.
To me, they end up making kind of more sense than the Doom levels do. You are encouraged to explore these, not just to get those keys. You're trying to find secret areas, weapons and power-ups that are going to give you an advantage. And you can find them early, similar to Doom. So like if you find a secret door, you can grab the chainsaw on level 1 rather than the mandatory chainsaw equivalent in level 3.
Yeah. It's it's funny because we're going to be using Doom names for these.
It's really hard not to.
Yeah, because the weapons are pretty much straight lifts, except reskinned, right? And theming does matter, but sometimes it's just easier to describe, the weapon in this as a shotgun because it behaves more like a shotgun than a crossbow, right?
It's got nothing to do with a crossbow.
Nope.
And crossbows already had like a video game semiotic kind of value to it, and this just throws out the window. Them just lifting the Doom weapons is one of the downsides to this, I think. Because they're the Doom weapons, but they're not as good. Like the weapons in this are good, but they're not as fun to use as the Doom weapons. They don't sound as good. They're not as flashy as that. There's also, I really do like the one unique weapon to this though, the fire mace that shoots pinballs, rapid fire pinballs.
Do you know the story about that?
It was originally meant to be in Doom.
Yeah, that is how the BFG was supposed to work, but for technical limitations. Yeah.
Yep. And then they're like, we can't handle spheres on this system. That weapon is super fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally they're just Doom weapons. The enemies also generally have an analog to Doom enemies. Again, not exactly, but generally, there's a lot more like melee enemies in this.
Yeah.
Than there are in Doom.
You get to hell and it's just like, hey, it's an imp, except not as pink. Yeah.
Yeah. There he is. Here's our buddy. A lot of the enemies, there is damage types in this for both you and the enemy. There are physical and magic weapons, and there are enemies that will appear in ghost versions. If they're ghost versions, only magical weapons can hurt them. And then you can also turn yourself into a ghost, which gives you that advantage, but also makes you invisible, which instead of making the enemies ignore you, makes them fire wildly. Which is so funny. They just lose their mind and just start shooting in random directions, hoping you'll be there. And they're right. Yeah. It's a horrible power up.
It's really bad. The second I discovered that, it's not like, oh, it's not that they don't detect you. It's just that they're going to become way less predictable with the way that they fire. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got nothing to do with invisibility. It's just, but you know, that is that weird damage type system, which is strangely ambitious in this. In practice, like for me at least, what it meant was I'd be playing, I'd be like, why is this not working? Oh shit, it's that thing. And then would just switch weapons. It wasn't something I consciously thought about or strategized.
Yeah.
With, which would have been, you know, the ideal. Like that's what they want. It's more of like a neat little, you know, ambitious little nugget. Anything else.
It's also the case that like 4/5 of your weapon are energy type and thus work against spectral.
Yeah.
Kind of enemies.
Work against everything. If something's physical, they're not immune to spectral. It's not Ikaruga.
Right.
You know, it's an energy bolt will still kill a golem.
Yeah. So the big system here, we kind of alluded to this a little bit. Like when you run over the thing that gives you invisibility, it doesn't just activate like the similar power up in Doomwood. There is an inventory system, and this is such a game changer. Yeah.
It's the use your consumables.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like it's balanced as such. Like all games are better when you use the stuff that's in them. Like, and that's a player side, but it's also design side. Like if you're making a game that's going to have power ups, you should make the game better if you use them, like more fun and kind of demand it. Here they do that. You are going to constantly find little doodads, health pickups you can bank for later, torches to make, you know, light up dark areas, bombs you can leave behind yourself, invincibility, invisibility. You get an egg that turns enemies into chickens. So you can kind of tap them, you know, they die really quickly.
Yeah.
And you can hold on to these. You can use them whenever you like.
Yeah.
Knowing when to use those adds an extra layer of strategy to the Doom formula. And you want to use them. Specifically, the Tome of Power, which is one of the canonical items Corvus gets. It's part of the lore, like if you read in the later games. This is a book that powers up your weapons for a time.
Yeah.
And knowing when to use these and timing these out is a huge part of the game.
Yeah, it's not just a power up. It gives like an alternate fire. It changes the ways that weapons behave, right? So, you know, your rocket launcher, this Rod of the Phoenix, when you use this, it turns into probably the only efficacious flamethrower in video games.
Yeah, it's great. I love the fire mace powered up thing where you just shoot one giant pinball. And it kind of sucks. Like if it hits a wall, it dies, but it will one shot anything.
Yep.
If you manage to do it. The second item, which ties into the other really huge innovation in this, is the Wings of Wrath. Don't have that much to do with Wrath. These are items that let you fly for a time. This can both be something you need to do for the level. They can put them in positions where they're required. They can also help you find secrets and stuff. This was really ambitious. The flying in these kind of games would allow you to skip a lot of things. This ties into another part of the inventory system, which is you losing things between levels. You only get to keep one copy of everything that you have, and you can never keep the wings. So again, it being the use your consumables boomer shooter, if you were leaving a level with 10 time bombs, you fucked up.
Yes.
You want to leave with one time bomb at most.
Yeah, because, you know, if you use those, you probably wouldn't have taken as much damage. You probably would have found, you know, been able to explore more, etc. down the line. Like these are, I mean, with the exception of the invisibility, they make a pretty big difference. And also, once you understand that the Wings of Power don't carry over, Wings of Wrath rather, then you realize, oh, if they gave me a Wings of Wrath, they want me to use it in this level, possibly around where I found it.
There's something to get. Either this is the critical path or I can go find something valuable. Like it's really, you can't really understate how much this adds. So that kind of balancing your ammo and health pickups versus your performance versus the damage you take in a level, that's Doom, right? Like you could make a math formula out of it. Adding these consumables add just another axis of complexity to it. There are probably people like I can still play Doom. Like I think Doom's really fun. But there are probably people who get bored of it and think it is too simple.
Yeah.
This is like an order of magnitude more complicated, having to factor in these things. It's neat.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear about how they did the flying. They decided like, well, all right, this is not actually rendered in 3D, but because we're doing this ray tracing thing, what if we just like, we can fake this effect by moving the horizon line up and down. And
you're literally just getting the wings that control the world.
Yeah.
And just sink the ground, like Populous wings.
Yeah. And that's in addition to this is the Doom engine game where they added the ability to look up and down. You'll remember in previous Doom, I believe in Doom, I don't think it's like this in Doom 2. But if an enemy was higher than you on the Z-axis rather, then the shot would just track upward and hit them. You didn't actually have to like look up to hit it. Here
it is like that in Doom 2 as well. I think
yes.
Quake is the first first party game where that's not true.
Yeah. So I played this, just in full disclosure, I played this in GZ Doom because I had to mess with field of view and stuff to not get motion sick playing it. So I had full mouse look. I cannot imagine trying to hit some of those gargoyles that are flying around if I had to, use a keyboard, hit page up to look up, stuff like that.
Page up is not a conveniently located key.
No.
Through any universe. I did the same thing for this, whereas when we did Doom 2, I played it with just keyboard. Like I went back into that mode. That just automatically adjusting for the Z-axis is a huge kindness.
Yeah.
And without that, like I really want a mouse look. Who knows if I cheated the game and cheated myself or whatever, things we want to leave behind in 2022. But that's how I did it as well. And I'd recommend playing it that way. But yeah, being able to look up, look down, have enemies come in above you, again, it's another axis. It's literally another axis of complexity.
Yeah.
It's taking that Doom thing, that Doom formula, and just adding very small changes that add new dimensions like that.
Sometimes literally, or at least half dimensions.
The game is rigorous. It's a tough game. You have to use those consumables. You want to be using every advantage you have. You use cover in this game. Like but duck around corners and shoot guys as they're approaching you. Things like that. You funnel people into bottlenecks. You are using strategy as opposed to soak. You can do a lot of circle strafing, but one of the limitations of games of this era, a lot of the encounter design is like, oops, all dudes. Here's a big plane with guys walking back and forth angrily, and you have to get to the other side of it. Like, bad neighborhood. Like there's a lot of that kind of.
I have business to do.
Yes, a lot of grumpy golems walking back and forth, and so circle strafing you end up getting you blindsided if you only do that. You need to be a little bit more clever in your approach.
Something that I found really contributed to the difficulty and happened here more than I remember happening in the Doom games, that feels like it is more out of the D&D kind of playbook, is there are a lot of traps, not just the crush traps that are there. Like those are pretty easy to see, but like rooms themselves are designed so that after you pick something up or after you accomplish something, or even after you move through them, enemies will come out of panels in the wall or something will open up, and then more of them are going to flood in. Not monster closets, enemies that were already there that are introduced to you at unexpected times from unexpected angles. And learning how to not die in this game entailed really kind of knowing how to read the space to understand where those fuckers might be hidden.
Yeah. It's also, and we talked about secret walls. This is just a minor level design thing, but I find that secret walls in this make more sense than they do in Doom.
Yeah.
There were more of them that had a visual indicator as to where they were. And you can see a continuation, a continuum there, because Wolfenstein 3D, it's literally just fucking random.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, like, I guess I'll hump this picture of Hitler until I get a treasure room, but every once in a while it would just be like this wall's got nothing to do with the picture of Hitler. I'm still humping it and I still get a treasure room. It's fucked up. And then Doom got a little bit better about that. Here, they use kind of lighting things. I found that a lot of times if there was one panel of a wall that was in shadow, due to lighting, that would be the secret.
Yeah.
things like that. Like, it's not perfect. It doesn't do that consistently, but there are a lot fewer just, I have to hump the right side of the maze, through the whole thing.
And in Doom, every space is an interior space. You're on a space station, you're on Mars. There's not really, an outside and an inside. In this, like, a level might be an outdoor space, and you are like actually going around structures, cathedrals or guard buildings or whatever. Like, because the structures have a defined inside and outside, you can tell when something doesn't line up. Like, there's a void here where a space should be. Like, that's probably, as I'm looking at the bird's eye view of the map, that might be a place I want to go check out, right? That notion of interior and exterior does help you read the space a lot better.
Read the space, and helps a lot with immersion and feeling like these spaces are things. Like, you go to a level that's called the cathedral, and it does feel like it has a cathedral in it. Whereas I feel like Doom also just has a level called the cathedral, and it's just, it's hallways. Doom 2 got further away from that. There were more experimental kind of abstract things, like the city.
Yeah.
You go through, that's all those little towers.
The Sandy Peterson stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of looks like one of those fake towns they make to train firefighters.
Safety town.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It'd be fun to run around one of those. But yeah, it does a lot less of that. Like, they look like buildings. They look like what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
good shit.
I thought it was funny. So because this is Doom, they have to have the insulting nicknames for difficulty. The lowest being "Thou needeth a wet nurse," and the highest being "Black Plague possesses thee."
I love black. That difficulty setting is really interesting. I wanted to watch somebody do it because I had a hard time on Bringest Them Oneth, which is the base difficulty. The Black Plague one triples the speed of all projectiles.
Wow.
So there's still projectiles you can still dodge because it's a Doom clone. You move 1,000 miles per hour. Like, you play as the Flash in any of these. Yeah. But yours and the enemy's projectiles move so much faster in that. So like, you end up with those skeleton warriors with the red axes that they throw, and they basically one-shot you.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like a nightmare. I have no interest in playing on Black Plague difficulty.
No.
Yeah. The other one is Thou Art a Smite Meister, which I like a lot. Smite Meister sounding like a 70s, like, made for TV kitchen gadget to me.
Yeah, it's the Smite Meister.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. This looks, it looks fine and sounds fine. I wish the soundtrack was a little bit more earwormy. It has very stiff competition to stand up to, but it does sell the idea of dark fantasy Doom pretty well. It kind of sucks that this is an aesthetic that kind of went away, it feels like, and we're only just barely getting back.
Yes. Yeah. I like this visually a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I like the way that the enemies look. I like their death animations.
Oh yeah.
Are almost all really, really good. The end boss of episode 3's death animation is great.
Oh, legendary.
Yeah. Like, just really, really fun. And I like the soundtrack. I think that the biggest thing is it's not just copying metal songs. So like, copying pop songs means you get pop hooks. These are all original compositions. So like, I think they're very appropriate. But yeah, I would agree that they're not super earwormy.
Yeah. And we talked about the level design. Is there anything else, like, aesthetically, that we want to hit?
Probably not, not aesthetically. There are some, you get the next point, you got some pitfalls of the genre. And this kind of plays into those enemies, aesthetically. I wish there were more of them. Like, you're going to fight a lot of the same bread and butter enemies. I think that would be a big improvement.
Yeah.
You're also, getting keys and hitting switches, and then kind of like, it doesn't show you what the switch did.
Yeah.
You hear a non-directional sound of something happening, and then you have to kind of go check.
Yeah.
That could be a lot better.
It really could. It's one of my least favorite things in games, which is, all right, world state change. Now go check everything.
Yep. Go see what happened. It's a bummer. And it's not universally crappy in this.
Nope.
Like, sometimes you hit a switch and you turn around and you see what changed, but there are times where they're not very connected.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Let's talk about the development of it.
Raven.
Yeah. So Raven had impressed id with their debut game, this dungeon crawler that looks pretty cool called Black Crypt. That's on the Genesis, weirdly enough. Continuing Genesis being a kind of secretly a PC kind of deal, but like a real time wizardry kind of deal going on.
Yeah, it looks like Eye of the Beholder a lot.
Yeah,
if you pull it up.
Yeah. And so id had kind of agreed to start working together with Raven loosely, licensing the Wolfenstein 3D engine for the next game, Shadowcaster, which does not look as cool as Black Crypt.
No, Black Crypt sounds great. So id asked Raven to make this dark fantasy with the Doom engine. And Raven initially started making a full RPG before John Carmack came in and said, hey, just do Doom. There's that this is part of the Doom story as well, how there's originally going to be RPG elements and a story, licensing based on their D&D campaign. They kept trying to make Doom as an RPG, and it's like very fascinating to see their half measures.
Yeah,
like this is not an RPG by any means. It is closer to an RPG than Doom is. Like they keep inching towards it as an ideal that they all were interested in and just could not quite get there.
Yeah. Then they made it for cell phones, and then it was pulled from stores, never to be seen again.
Yep. And now it's on my weirdly rare and valuable iPod with the all shooter version of Metal Gear 4, or the all light gun version, and the Silent Hill game that was released on iPods.
John Romero was more involved with this. He signed on to be the executive producer, and also brought over a bunch of equipment, like Next terminals and things like that, kind of showing the Raven team what to do with the Doom engine, right? Helping them navigate that.
Yeah, taking them under his wing. This had a shareware release with 3 fucking episodes. God, I miss the generosity of that era. That's all we're covering today is what you would have got for free in 1994 to get you to want to buy the other episodes. The 2 episodes are included with any version of the game you can buy today. We have access to them. They're just not that different.
Yeah.
They're also designed specifically as challenge things.
Yes.
So they're like, if you've mastered the first 3 episodes, here you go. And I have not mastered these episodes.
Right.
I still find that, parts of these pretty difficult. Like it's fun throughout. It's not like to the degree that I'm too frustrated, but I wasn't like hungering for more challenge.
The frustrating part is that there are no new enemies. It seems like it just kind of seems to be recombining a lot of stuff. Additionally, for as much story as there is here in these first 3 kind of episodes, like there's very little, but it's there. The 3 episodes do have you eventually killing Desperal, and then you go to the ossuary, and then you go, I like to say the extra stuff. It really does feel, kind of extraneous. The continuing adventures of Corvus,
which are really weird because that's what the sequels to this did. The actual like narrative, this game, when it came out, well received, people felt like it didn't do enough to differentiate itself from Doom. I disagree. But then there are 3 sequels to this, Hexen and Hexen 2, both of which, the difference being, as opposed to finding weapons that correlate to Doom guns, you cast spells in those games, and they're a little bit different. And then Heretic 2, which is a 3rd person game.
That's wild. Looking at footage of that, it's I mean, can you buy Heretic 2 now, or is that
Heretic 2 is memory hold. Like you have to steal it, you have to Google it to get it, but it looks like a Small Soldiers PS1 game or some shit. It's not very encouraging looking to me. I've never played Heretic 2. I have played Hexen and Hexen 2, and those games are good.
So this team, a large portion of the Heretic team left Raven when it was acquired by Activision, heading for greener pastures in 1997. They formed their own studio, Human Head Studios. They made the Rune games, and also they are the people who did the original Prey. Nothing to do with 2017's Prey, but a good game in its own right. And then they made The Quiet Man, and that pretty much scuttled the studio.
It's real weird. I'm very surprised they made The Quiet Man. This has a Square Enix stink to me. Square Enix must have published that, right?
Oh yeah, Square Enix absolutely published that.
Yeah, it's got such Square Enix stench to it. So Human Head was closed up in 2019. But people who worked on that team still have worked. They founded Roundhouse Studios, and they're currently working on something for Xbox Studios. Damn these suffixes.
So many studios. As for Heretic itself, it is in one of those classic no one lives forever kind of states, where the development rights are owned by Activision, but id owns the publishing rights. If the Activision Microsoft merger had gone through, then they would have been united again. But we are happy that merger seems to be completely in jeopardy. So yeah.
Yeah. If the merger had happened again, yes, maybe we would have gotten like a mobile idle game that's themed around Heretic or some nonsense.
Yeah.
But as is, we just get id, who's just like, everything we've ever made, I don't know, $6 on Steam like once a year. And you're like, all right, man, I'll own every Heretic and Hexen game for $6.
Twist my arm, why don't you?
Yeah. So we're going to get into it, and these levels are going to go quick, partly because they do go quick. Similar to Doom, this has the made for speed running, gives you your time at the end. If you know what you're doing, you can beat these levels in less than a minute usually. In part just because after you figure out what a guy is like and how to fight them and what their concept is, fighting 2 or 3 of them is not that different, and not that different to talk about. So let's get into the beginning. City of the Damned, your hometown, which is later named in later games. But this is they brought it to your house. Corvus has reason to be mad. They came to his neighborhood.
He's not locked in the city with them. They came
imagine
to
if
the
you
city.
woke up one day and your city was called City of the Damned, and you didn't change it. You didn't vote.
Would it have to be like an actual thing? Like would it turn into a City of the Damned, or would it be like a tourist
like Youngstown?
Thing? Oh my gosh. The first mission here is called the docks, and you start on some docks. They have a little jetty here. It's neat. But you're in a little tutorial room. You've got some gargoyles here. These are the basic ones, the ones that just kind of fly at you and sneak up. Yeah,
they're very similar to the little flaming skulls in Doom, but with, again, these very small differences. I think very small changes that make a big difference. They don't do contact damage. They have to actually do a melee strike. Yeah. So they introduce ones that rush at you a little bit later, but they don't just hurt you when they hit you. They then have to wind up, which gives you a chance to dodge. Like, this is a game where, unlike a lot of games of its era, there is a bigger focus on defense and dodging. These first ones just fly around and shoot you. There's little bubbas.
Actually, the shooting ones aren't here yet. The shooting ones come a little bit later.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
these are the one that, but they're not. They don't do contact damage. So you have plenty of time to shoot them with your puny little wand, which is all you start with. You can also switch to the staff, which is garbage.
Yep.
In this, you do a poke as opposed to a swing. It doesn't seem very efficient. And you pick up health pickups and kill these gargoyles before going out into the docks that extend into the water. And you grab a room that has a switch that lowers a key, which gets you introduced to your second enemy here in a hallway where there are golems.
God, the sounds that these golems make. Yep. They really sell the big dumb guy thing to the point where they feel less like golems and more like ogres.
It's the sack pack. Like it's all those dudes who are hanging out in Tim Heidecker's den, eating food that he throws at them. Like, they're absolutely just big slow guys. Absolute terror motherfuckers. Like,
oh my gosh. Eventually they're going to introduce ones that will do projectiles, the Inferno Golems. But these guys, they just come up and attempt to do wrestle moves on you.
Yeah, they just kind of duh until you kill them. You get past this secret area here. Oh man, this is a side note. I rewatched the episode of The Simpsons with George Bush. At the end, Gerald Ford comes up and him and Homer are friends.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that Gerald Ford's personalized license plate is Mr. Duh?
Huh?
It's so mean.
It's incredibly mean.
Mr. Duh. Why would you do it? That's so weird.
Yeah, not that you have to feel bad for the guy who pardoned Nixon, but apparently he really resented his, just like he had a couple of times where he stumbled, and him, this incredibly accomplished athlete, like big college football guy, like that was a huge part of his identity, forever being just the big doofus who was always stumbling. Like Chevy Chase fucking ruined that man.
But you don't have to hand it to any president, but also poor Jerry Ford.
Mr. Duh.
Mr. Duh. So in the hallway here, there's a secret area you can pick up. It's very well telegraphed, which gives you the gauntlets of the necromancer. Just do no necromancing whatsoever. They're exactly like the chainsaw, but again, small changes that make big differences. These have a short tractor beam effect.
Yeah,
so an enemy will get locked on them.
They'll draw you toward the enemy. It's weird.
It ends up being like if you have a bunch of weak enemies, like a bunch of Gargs, this is really good because it will just kind of one at a time chew them up, and then you'll instantly target the next one.
Yeah,
because they'll just home you in on it.
Yeah,
pretty neat.
This is way better to have as an infinite ammo kind of last resort kind of deal.
Yes,
and almost always a good bet in really close quarters. Right.
The other thing too, the Tome of Power for this drains life. That's really cool too. So it becomes a utility item.
It's a little necromantic there. Yeah, a little bit.
I guess there's the necromancer. Kinda. He's not bringing the dead back to life. It's vampiric. But it's really cool that it has a utility function as well. So if you're low on health and you have a Tome of Power, that is another option for you.
Yeah, the game is pretty generous with health pickups. Is the thing. Like there'd be, again, because it wants you to use them. It's not just the instant use health pickups, but also the quartz flasks, the little pink ones.
Yeah, I'm just more like admiring the design space they're doing. It also, since the enemies can still attack you while you're doing chainsawing them, they're going to hit you, but you're going to get that health back. Yeah, so it makes it viable even against tough enemies.
And then this ends. So every level pretty much ends with you've got to get to the teleporter room, tiny little closet with a little thing you have to touch to leave the level. Pretty much always you're going to defeat like a rush of enemies, and then you're going to open this up, and then inside this closet is a little boss encounter.
Yeah, just one little guy who's gonna be like, I'll be seeing you next level.
Yeah.
A little preview. So this one has the undead warrior, a cool little skeleton warrior guy who tosses axes at you.
Yeah.
See, kind of an emergency early on. These versions are fine, and then you get to the ghost versions, which are real monsters, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Any of the ones that throw the red axes.
Yes.
It's kind of important, I think. Our boss in the first, nothing has done projectiles yet, except for this guy, this undead warrior that we're going to get. Everything in this level so far had been melee. One thing about the gargoyles before we move off of them, throughout the game, they're just going to have them peppered throughout the levels, and you're going to be minding your own business. And because these can fly over obstacles, they don't have to track along ground that you can run along. They're almost always going to hone directly on you and just attack you from behind. So you're just going to see your health going down, and you're going to turn around and you're going to see just a bunch of these little lampreys just
the little pokies. I found the trick was just to that's what they want to do, and they will ambush you and come out from things. You have to be very careful about clearing everything. Like Doom, they give you a little how many enemies you killed thing at the end, and the idea is that that's supposed to be for completionism. I killed all the enemies. I oftentimes was getting that, and not because of completionism reasons.
Oh yeah.
It was just because I wanted to explore, because it's got more of an exploration vibe to it. Leaving the docks, you go directly into the dungeon, which I wouldn't have done. No. I would have explored other parts of my hometown, like the Applebee's.
They have perfect margaritas.
I would have got some apps, and I could use them at later times to my inventory.
Oh, I've only got one tater skin left because I left the room.
Well, at the end of every level, they take all of your tater skins except for one for the road.
Road skins.
You just get a tiny road tater. So this area is mostly indoors as opposed to the last one.
Yeah.
And this is where you're introduced to the workhorse weapon of the game.
Yeah,
like the one I use the most for by far.
Yeah, and it's a good one. This is the ethereal crossbow. It's a crossbow that shoots 3 energy bolts as it goes, and they have kind of a loose spread. This not being hit scan means that it is super easy to tell when all of your projectiles are hitting, so it feels way more satisfying to hit every enemy with all 3 of them in one go, which does little to offset the loss of the satisfying shotgun sound. But it's there and it matters.
It just needs a way better noise.
Yes. Yeah. Just make it sound like a shotgun. It's magic.
It'd be fine with me. I'm sure that's a mod for this. Just porting in all the gun sounds from Doom. When you get this is a little trick room. You get this and the walls drop down. There are a bunch of gargoyles. And it's kind of teaching you about the ethereal crossbow, which can kill multiple enemies in a shot.
Yeah.
Because it spreads out, especially really weak enemies, even though like the gargoyles are not super weak, they still have some HP, but you can kind of just fire this into the crowd and eventually kill them all through splash.
The yellow key gets you into a fancy area. Something I love about these levels is that most of them have at least one place with like lots of gold stuff, like, oh, this is where the administrator lived.
The dungeon master. This has a crusher trap. This little hydraulic press that comes down. There are little potions in there that you want to get, but as you go in, it'll come down and hurt you. You don't die, you don't get gibbed. You just get hurt for being crushed in this, which is a kindness.
The audio visual presentation on the crusher traps are fucking amazing because again, they move down very slowly and it doesn't push you like straight down into the floor. You just kind of like your view goes to like half height and then you're constantly making like a sound.
So you get like, compressed inch by inch.
Yeah, but it's just like somebody like an improv exercise. Like I'm going to press down on top of your head, and you're going to go down to half height. You're going to do some physical play.
It's like the 2022 really good tweet where it's just like me staying in the sun taking 1 HP damage per second.
Oh my god.
They play with another kind of level hazard in this. When you grab the blue key a little bit later, the lights turn out. And it gets dark in this game, like really fucking dark. You have torches, so you can offset this, this temporary item. And this was a really early, like, oh, use your shit signal to me.
Yeah. It's very funny the way that they handle darkness in this, because at least in GZ Doom, I didn't get this far in the regular one before I realized I was going to get completely motion sick playing this. It's just they just turn off rendering that space when it is in darkness. Like there are varying levels of light. Like GZ Doom has the dynamic light and stuff put into it, but when a place is dark and is meant to be lit up with a torch, even if it's just a little alcove, it's just, here is a black void where this is at.
It just swallows all light. It's magical.
You
can get a very useful item here and through exploring the secret areas, where you can get the bag of holding, which doubles your ammo limit.
This is huge.
Your capacity. And you pick this up. This is a really good item. You want this, and gives you a little bit of ammo. Everything. And then there is a crusher trap near the start of the level, and if you can get past that, you get a new weapon, the Dragon Claw. Which is a machine gun.
Incredibly
with the claw.
No, I mean, just you hold it and then energy stuff shoots out from it. This was basically, I went back and forth between this and the ethereal crossbow, and getting both of those in the second stage was useful, but also a little bit underwhelming because nothing was as useful as the two of those in tandem.
Game could use more and more exciting weapons, I think.
Yes.
After sensible place. After you leave the dungeons, you go into the gatehouse. Gatehouse that guards the dungeons. Here, the Gargagungung. I haven't talked for a long time.
That's the thing. Yeah.
I spent this week just playing video games and reading. So no talk, just read.
We have this opening area where we get the gargoyles who shoot fireballs. Even though they're introduced, they are often mixed in with the melee ones, and they don't just suddenly start firing with the intensity of like a dedicated projectile enemy. They fire pretty infrequently, which they make up for with numbers.
Yep. The fireballs move slow, so if you dodge, you will be a-okay. We get a bunch of new items here for our inventory. This is where you find the shadow sphere, which we talked about. It's not very good. It's a thing that ostensibly makes you invisible and intangible, but see the intro.
Yeah.
More fun, you get the morph ovum, which is the thing that turns enemies into chickens. A fun thing that I read about on this is that this is a big item in the multiplayer of this. You can turn your opponents into chickens, but really pro Heretic players learn like chicken meta and can get up on you and like peck you to death like pretty easily because you're a really small target. Like it changes your hitbox to be like the size of a bowling ball, and like really, really good Heretic competitive players can make like see being turned into a chicken as an advantage and can pull wins out of it.
Oh, welcome to a world of shit.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like it's like you think you can fight a chicken because they're small, but how would you even get a hold of it?
It's like when your bastard friend chooses Odd Job and Goldeneye.
Exactly, but like half an Odd Job, like Odd Job's kids. The Odd Joblets. The oddlongs, his little babies.
Yeah. Around this point, we're really settling into the standard hub and spoke architecture. The previous ones have been a little bit more linear. But this is a little bit aided by the addition of teleporters. Teleporters in this are not very disorienting, I found. I think leading, just because of the general, non-anonymity of the spaces that are designed here. Teleporters will almost always take you either like right back to the starting area or like the beginning of a spoke, or they will take you to a very nearby secret area, a very nearby room. And you will eject pretty close to where you started.
And sometimes they just take you to the next area you need to go to.
Yes.
Like, when I see teleporters in a first person game, I get nervous about it. They're pretty good here. The end of this level is guarded by the spectral version of the Undead Warrior. They're not that hard to kill because, again, most of your weapons are energy weapons. They just do a lot more damage. Them throwing the little red axes, those mean business.
Yeah.
So, but there's just one of them. If you can kind of back off and again use that cover, you'll be okay.
Yeah. You just want to make sure that you clear, like you said, clear out the room so you're not dealing with him along with any other stuff you might have trained to the exit.
Yes. Yeah. This leads into the guard tower. This has this kind of big moat. There are a few guard buildings, like outbuildings, dotted around it. Like it almost looks like a lo-fi version of a thief map.
Yeah, that's a good point of comparison. Yeah. The yellow key is on a smasher trap. The green key is at the bottom of this main guard tower, hidden among a bunch of barrels and gargoyles. I think it is a smart choice to have these barrels not be explosive. They end up actually kind of forming like little mazes within a room, hiding stuff because they're just rendered as sprites, just like items are.
Yeah, there are the explosive barrel equivalent later. Yeah. I can't remember if you run into them in these episodes we're talking about or if they are in episodes 4 and 5.
Are you talking about the spores?
I'm talking about the spores.
Yeah, I know you run into those.
Yeah, those show up in at least in episode 3. That blow up. They're called like gas bags or something like that.
Yeah,
called big titty farters. I don't know what they're actually called. Something ridiculous. Yeah. The green key, which you get here, which unlocks the way to the exit, is guarded by one of these cloaked figures. These servants of Disparel. These wizard characters who I thought were going to be like a mini boss, but turn out to actually be kind of less of a pain in the ass than the Undead Warriors.
Yeah.
They're not too bad.
They're not as durable as the Undead Warriors. What they gain in exchange for that is the ability to float. Yeah. Which means that they will kind of like the gargoyles have an easier time kind of fast tracking toward you.
They would probably be an absolute nightmare if you were using page up and page down.
Yes.
To fight them. They look badass.
Yeah.
This guard tower guards the Citadel, which you go into. Which when you go into this area, this is a big melee. This is a huge monster party of just like big dumb guys punching each other in the back of the head.
It's worth saying that though, because enemies will hurt each other and get into fights with each other.
Yes.
They need to be present in substantial enough density for that to happen. You're probably going to start seeing that around this point, though.
Yes, on the off chance, then seeing it a lot more later as enemies get more and more dense. Specifically, when you start running to the Iron Liches, the non-boss versions of which are pretty stationary, and you can get them to fire on their friends pretty easy. So you kind of work into these corridors here, and they're little smaller outbuildings here, and we're running into some various tougher enemies than just the golems. We have the robe specters are back, skeleton warriors come out, and big swarms of gargoyles. This is kind of where you get into a little bit of like, oh, the enemy palette is not so diverse that they can do too much more than just have a bunch of dudes. Here, like the levels are really well designed, but they're limited. The encounters are not necessarily well designed because they're kind of limited by what these guys can do.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And the majority of them will just kind of intermittently fire a slow moving projectile that kind of moves at you.
Yeah. Like walk back and forth and just kind of, toss something at you. The cool thing about this is that the blue key that you get, which brings you into this cathedral building, it has this water font in front of it, which has the wings of wrath in it. So you can finally fly.
Yeah, and you have to use those to get to the upper part of the cathedral and get through to the exit. Nice little tutorial for that.
Yeah, very nice. Bringing us into the cathedral level.
Yeah. Love this. This is like a big church. Like you start in the sanctuary, like up at the nave or whatever. It's been too long since I've taken art history. And you're working your way like through the larger chambers and then out into a graveyard. Like it's a full big cathedral. And it is recognizable as such. Yeah.
Some kind of dungeon ecology stuff here. There are little worship rooms on the side. There's rooms with stained glass down there and stuff. Like it has this kind of corrupted real religion feeling to it. It doesn't have the doom, like everything is an upside down cross and a 666, and it's just using religious imagery because it's badass. This was actually a place where people worshiped before it was corrupted.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting introduced to the spectral golems in this level out in the graveyard, who again, not too big of a deal. But harder. They're kind of semi-invisible until you get close enough, but you can hear them and see kind of stuff moving, and you're always moving and shooting. So
they continue making the dumb guy noises.
Yeah, like they can just shut up about their goddamn jet skis for 1 second. Be stealthy.
I get it. You spilled your soda.
Yeah. You lost the lid to your yogurt. You're not hungry anymore. Tell me more, Dorgus. But we go into the cathedral again, the way these levels kind of make a sense here in this first episode, down into the crypts below the cathedral here.
This is like a little
flooded.
Yeah, it's like a little flooded necropolis kind of deal. And there are these smaller kind of buildings that are the actual crypts. And like, this is a harsh introduction. If you hadn't, had to deal with it too much before, this area that you start out in has enemies up on high ledges above you, taking pot shots down at you.
Yeah. So you can get to them and you can shoot them, but they're going to walk back and forth. So you have to kind of make the value judgment of, do I dodge this and wait until I can get up there? Because if it's a heretic level, you will be able to get up there, or do I try to kind of snipe back and forth, which is difficult with projectiles on both sides. You can waste a lot of ammo that way.
Yeah.
The centerpiece here is this undead throne room you can get into. Where there are these crushed doors that are staggered at the beginning. They're kind of like teeth that move up and down.
It's like a double dare physical challenge kind of set piece to get through that.
Yeah. Heretic Corvus Ninja Warrior your way through this. And then there are 2 thrones inside, which is a cool little set piece with undead warriors on them that stand up and proceed to throw axes at you.
Of course.
in a stately and regal manner.
Through the back, you drop into this rough-hewn kind of burial area, kind of winding through these tight corridors till you get the blue key. And this is where you run into again. They've run out of enemies to start throwing at you. Just the semi-invisible undead warrior throwing red axes at you.
Yep. much more of a threat to you than like an HP sponge. This leads into the final level of episode 1, Hell's Maw, which is a big chasm with a sea of lava at the bottom down here. There are these undead warriors that are off on the far ledge. They're going to be tossing axes at you, so you can snipe them. It's probably better to fight these guys than try to run past them because they have a much better angle on you.
Yeah.
And this is where those spores show up.
Yeah, there's like you've got to run across the lava at the bottom to kind of get up to the top there, and this chamber of spores is like a little adjoining connector kind of thing. These spores they will explode if they are shot or if they are hit by anybody. And you have a bunch of the Inferno golems kind of in small little rooms off to either side, potentially throwing their little fireballs in and blowing them up. So you want to clear out enough of these guys so that you can make your way through safely. And you also kind of want to hang around and wait for the nitro golems to come after you, because you do not want them coming in to attack you for the big boss encounter for the end of this episode. This next giant area with iron liches.
Yeah, iron liches are great. They're gigantic metal skulls. I would have been happy with a skeleton or just a regular metal skull, but a 6 foot tall metal skull. Mwah. These are a rare enemy in that there are different versions of this. It's doing the Doom trick of an enemy showing up at the end of an episode as a boss and then being rolled into regular enemies. But these actually behave a little bit differently. The boss versions of these move quicker. The actual versions we're going to do later are almost stationary. Like they're almost like turrets.
Yeah.
It makes them much easier. The other thing is that they have multiple attacks. They cast 3 different spells at you. That they have. They shoot off these little blue sparks, these fire pillars, and then most annoyingly, they have these tornadoes that'll pick you up and displace you, and they home in on you, and they're very persistent.
They last
hard to dodge.
They last for a very long time, and if you get caught in them, they're going to almost always hold you in a corner. So enemies in the room are going to have just a very easy target to hit.
Yeah. If those enemies are golems, if they're not shooting things at you, it's a good time to break out your gauntlets with perhaps a tome of power to keep your health up.
Yeah. And yeah, like you've got 2 of them with the possibility of these nitro golems coming in from behind you, and then a whole bunch of the wizards coming in from the chamber ahead of you.
Yeah. Tough encounter as well it should be for Hell's Maw.
Yeah.
The chamber that they were in is this lava floor, and you can run in there and grab an invulnerability ring at the end, right before the stage exit. So give you a little advantage for the next set of episodes. I think you don't actually start with anything. Can you get that before you do the boss fight?
No. Wait. I think it's out in the center. So I ended up using the invulnerability ring to get through the exit chamber where all of those wizards were held, because that is the lava floor. Like there is no safe area. Whereas the room with the iron liches, they're on a little island in the center of a bunch of lava, but you have safe area all the way around the chamber. Yeah,
around because a lot of times in Doom, at least I didn't notice it as much in Heretic. I was just wondering if I missed it because they're secrets. They will put an invulnerability item at the boss or near big boss encounters if you can find it. I was just wondering if you can get this for the golem encounter.
I don't know. I found it after the golem, but
yeah. You run through the lava to get to the end, and we get a little narrative scroll. You succeeded in wiping the undead from your world, but you now must seal the Hell's Maw portal from within to stop them from coming back. And then ends with no one ever said being a heretic was easy. That's from the newspaper comic that Corvus is working on about him. It's like very Ziggy-like, and it's about him having problems, like only heretic things. So other heretics can read it and relate to it.
Just heretic things.
Yeah, just like the Lock heretics, Heretic Cliff. Like there's a whole thing he's working, or it's going to be mimeographed.
I wish I could one up you, but I've fallen out of the rhythm.
Yeah, we don't got the rhythm anymore. It's okay. We'll get it back. We'll get it back. This moves us on to episode 2, Hell's Maw.
Yes.
And there are cool, like, Dungeons and Dragons-y things you're doing here. I think this is, in terms of just visually, this is my least favorite of the episodes. There's some cool psychedelia and cool colors that happen, but we're not in spaces as much anymore.
It's a lot of cavern and rough stone. This is the part that looks the most like it could just be Doom.
Yes. And it kind of comes back. I was expecting it just to continue on that thing. But then when you get to the Dome of Desperal, it again looks like places. It just looks like, places cults and demons live in.
Yeah.
This starts off with the crater.
Yeah. Just like in Doom, when you start a new episode, you are down to just your basic equipment. You have your wand, a little bit of ammo, and your staff. None of your items that you picked up. So the first mission of any given episode is going to be difficult. That is especially true in episode 3. Here they do a little bit more to kind of ease you in. Though they do introduce you to a brand new enemy that is pretty tough on the curve of things, the were dragons when you open the first door, these stand-ins for imps.
Nasty little dudes. So you continue kind of moving through here. The level is very basic. There's just a couple of different rooms. It's pretty easy. You just have to get the keys and run across these lava floors, which will do damage to you after a beat.
Yes.
So they set these up so you can sprint across them. Generally, lava does not instantly kill you, which is good.
Standard level. I like that they are just introducing this new element of the lava for you to understand that it is not death sentence.
Yeah. And this moves on to our second level here, the lava pits.
Yeah, another new enemy, and I think the last unique sprite that we're going to get before the end boss.
The end boss, which is what they based Vindicator from Spawn on, I think, which I never put together, but looks just like him.
Weird.
Or Violator, not Vindicator. How stupid of me.
Different things.
One's a Depeche Mode album. One's
Gary,
a member of Alpha Flight.
I'm not the Spawn one.
Oh, okay. You're decent to it, though.
Your Spawn jokes do nothing for me.
No one's the Spawn one. Do you think I have a Spawn friend who my Spawn jokes work on?
I think maybe you, in my head, you and Jeremy were goofing on Spawn a lot more.
Jeremy doesn't know Spawn. I don't know Spawn. I never read a Spawn comic in my life. I just am familiar with a couple of his creepy little fuck ups.
Oh, maybe it's because you and Will were making jokes about Malbolgia.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah. Well, that's a long and storied tale.
Yes.
But nobody knows about Spawn. We don't have a Spawn American on the network, as far as I know. Will prove me wrong. So these things called saber claws. These little xenomorph things, and it kind of runs into another one of the problems with this game about the enemy variety is that they're a little faster than golems, but they're also just little melee dudes. They're not that big a deal. I was expecting them to be like really fast or teleport or have a jump or do something. No, they just kind of sidle towards you and try to attack you.
Also, their claws aren't sabers; they're more just ornate axes.
Yeah.
And so I got fired for that blunder. Yeah,
they're no good. But this level progresses along this lava river. So you eventually go down and you follow it. There's a really cool little game saying yes thing. There's a lava waterfall at the end, and there's enough headspace to get down there. If you go down there, there's a secret and a set of wings that'll get you out, which is really cool. Oh, you wouldn't think to go here. It looks like a level feature, just backdrop, but they put stuff there.
Yeah. But you quickly leave the lava river and go up to this upper, more constructed area where the wizards are up there, just kind of playing cards and stuff.
Yep. Just walking back and forth. The way out is reached by lowering this pillar with a switch, and you ride it up to a blue teleporter here, taking you to the River of Fire.
Yeah. This is like an organic sewer level. This is kind of the most curvy map that we've gotten so far. And don't say
What?
Oh man, a lot of blind corners for enemies to kind of hide in. When I call this like a sewer level, a thing that is important about a sewer level is that there is almost always like two traversable sides of a hallway with a dangerous middle, so you have to go up and down both sides of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or,
you've got that
like
going on
choose
here.
your crossing points.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, where you can do that. It's got that energy to it. You kind of you get to the top of another lava fall, and this is where we can get our Phoenix Rod.
Yeah, love this thing.
Yeah, this is really good.
Yeah, I love a Doom rocket launcher. I don't know if that's just because I fell into doing like Team Fortress rocket launcher stuff, but like that is just the right amount of speed and just the right amount of splash damage to be really, really fun to knock enemies around with.
It's really useful too, since enemies tend to bunch up.
Yeah,
in this game, like anything that does AoE is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Through the blue door on the mandatory path, you can also get in this little cranny and grab the Hell Staff, which is the equivalent of the plasma rifle.
Yeah.
In this, I picked up ammo for this before I picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
And the ammo for it is runes.
Yeah, which to me is like, wait, is that currency?
Yeah, I was like, am I going to find a fucking shop that I forgot about last time I played this? On the other side of this, though, this is where we get the fire mace. This is the thing that shoots rapid fires a bunch of pinballs.
Mm-hmm.
I just find this very kinesthetically pleasing.
No,
it's useful. It's not the most useful because it has no range. Like, and if you want to fire and sling in the air, you have to be really close to it because they arc.
Mm-hmm.
They act like giant pinballs.
Yeah,
but just having like a staff that opens up a gate to the elemental plane of pinballs. What an amazing superpower that'd be. Can you imagine? They stand in the overpass and cause chaos.
I love it. I think I lost the last couple pinballs that I bought. They're hanging around here. If I just had like a little staff that would give me as many of them as I wanted.
Yeah. If we end up going back to Midwest Gaming Classic, which is our soft plan right now, we're not ready to announce, but that's the hope. We'll have to get some more.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, when we say these are pinballs, they'll bounce. So even if they hit, they will travel toward nearby enemies if they're close enough.
Yeah. They're really good for huge groups of enemies if you just kind of spray because they fire very rapidly.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned in the intro, this is how the BFG was supposed to function, which is really strange.
Yes.
This brings us into the ice grotto. We're going to have slippery floors.
Yeah.
We run into a couple of other environment effects through here, but just in hidden zones. There's a water that has a current in, I think, the second level with wind above it that you have to turn off through a switch.
I don't remember turning off the wind. I only ran into wind. I only made note of wind once later on. There's a later level where you have to make a dash across a bridge with the wind. But yeah, I am torn between wishing that I had seen more of that, but I do not know that they would find enough interesting ways to use it that wouldn't be annoying. Yeah,
in this a game that says about dodging, like icy floor is not great, I think, in this, but again, you just kind of have to like appreciate the design space that they're doing something.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the basic building blocks of video games. And they've gotten rid of it. Even Mario, like, give you the ice skates now.
Yeah.
Like everyone realized this sucks. It's never been good.
Yeah.
What's real weird is that it's ice with lava. So it's one of those real heat does not transfer worlds.
That's that is a weirdly common video game biome.
Like just ice floating on lava. So we go and get the yellow key, which lets us into a small church. There are still kind of buildings here, which has a green key on top of it. Has some green tea on top of it. Has a green key on top if you get up to
refreshing.
Yeah. And this lets you get into a fort here with some kind of smaller buildings inside the fort.
This fort is like half of the level. It's pretty cool. Like there are guard wizards up on the parapet. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where, when you get in the temple of this, you see an Iron Lich, the boss of the previous episode. These ones, again, they work a little differently. They're a little easier to deal with, but they are doing the Doom thing of end boss becomes regular enemy. Yeah.
Into it. Getting us through into the catacombs.
I love being this late in a game running into a level called the Catacombs. It's like, you mean to tell me I haven't been in the Catacombs yet?
I mean,
and then you look at the levels, you're like, okay, the crypts, the cathedrals, god damn it, they got me.
The dungeons.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is the level that really is kind of built around the water flow kind of stuff. Like you're working down this canyon on a river, opening up doors to kind of let the water through, and trying not to get whisked along. There's one point where you have to, as you're being whisked along, hit a switch. And if you move past it, you have to kind of teleport back to the beginning of the level and ride the rapids down again.
Yeah, unless you're riding that quick save.
Yeah.
When you get past this, you get into this area that looks kind of futuristic. This chamber looks futuristic. That has a hanging body in front of this carving of two horsemen. Yeah. Just real badass. You know,
you're gonna be finding a lot of these hanging bodies.
It's great. Just that kind of like giving this mood palette.
Yeah.
To a low fidelity game.
Yeah, it's hanging bodies and then just weirdly like hanging shrunken heads. Or like or ornate skulls that are hanging around. It's just very fun that there's just apparently one guy who just went and did a head pass.
Yeah. Clark, gonna put up the decorations this year. Otherwise, though, this is just kind of level. And then you get into a level that turned my blood to ice when I first saw the name of it, which is the Labyrinth.
Nothing labyrinth about this, really.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah,
I did not want to do a Doom maze.
No. Yeah. So the central chamber here is the closest thing to a labyrinth that there is. It is just kind of this confusing mess of different elevations. It's kind of like when Kramer wanted to do his apartment in levels.
Yeah. Levels, Jerry. So this has these different kind of like tight squeezes, these squeeze through points, and surrounded by this moat of ice.
Yeah.
Here. But it's the only part that's really confusing. Yeah, because you get your keys, you'll eventually go into the special chamber at the corner, and they each have their own little challenges. So you're going to these different corners with little encounters in them.
Yeah. One of which is this big ice lake that is covered with these spores that will blow up if you touch them. So you need to kind of blast them as you're sliding around to get there. And also there are were dragons just firing on you from places where you can't reach them.
Yep. Just goofy fun. The end has another iron lich. Which, like, come on.
De rigueur, yes.
Yeah. To open up the exit, you also free the lich.
Yeah.
And he shoots tornadoes at you. This leads into the Great Hall.
Yeah. Mostly large spaces. This is one of the most dodge heavy areas for me. Like, they're just saying, like, yeah, here's some big arenas. Have fun strafing.
Yeah. That was Pocket.
Oh,
deciding to play my ukulele there for a second.
And here's a little solo. Hi, Pocket.
Hey, Bubby. Stop. Okay. Sorry, no time for an encore, little man. But there's not a whole lot to this. You just kind of have to find the elevators, and find the doorways and stuff in a big open area.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they're mixing up like tighter corridors with big open zones with long sight lines.
Yeah. And the culmination of this chapter is the most interesting level to me. Just like you are outside of a huge ring-shaped arena, and they just have tons of instances of every kind of enemy here. Like, it drops you into the middle of this fracas.
Yeah, in the portals of chaos.
Yeah.
As you make your way through the fracas and get to the center, you end up in the Stonehenge formation, fighting a new enemy, the Molotars.
Yay! I love that. Like, okay, what?
Yeah.
Also,
not Mamatar. Nope. A lot of things could have come a little bit better.
Mangletars.
Mangletars. Minotaur. Just gonna throw that out there. Safe choice, but I know the Molotars.
It's a big bull guy who, with the exception of his charge, is basically just the cyber demon.
Yeah, very cyber demon-esque. Yeah. But he does like a little Toro thing. He charges at you.
Yeah,
refreshing.
Holy shit! Does it take so much?
Don't get
damage to kill this. Yeah, don't get.
And they take they will use up all your ammo. Yeah. It's like a Resident Evil boss. So you want to be strafing. And this is a great time to use Tomes of Power.
Yeah. Hit him with everything that you have. Like, I had to dip back out to the outside to scavenge a little bit to come back in and deal with these guys. The fact that it's 2 of them as well.
It's very tough. And then the third level is when I got to certain points where I was like, you know what? I'm out of ammo. Now I'm not. And decided not to restart the episode.
Yeah.
So this one I was still playing by the rules. And then in episode 3, I cheated a bit.
Yeah.
Never God mode, but did give myself some ammo bumps a couple times.
Yeah. But yeah, you kill them, and then you step through the blue portal, thinking that you're going to be going back to Earth, but then you realize something else was controlling the Molotars, these kings of hell, and the portal.
They weren't the masterminds behind this.
After years of plans, my charging at them didn't work. No, the portal wasn't the way home. Instead, you are right in Desperal's domain, this series of domes under the sea.
He lives in Rapture. It's great.
So, if you would have asked me at the beginning of this game what Desperal's domain was, even if you called it like
skeletons in lava.
Yeah, not like underwater domes.
Peaceful water realm. The idea of the Molotars being the Grandmasters reminded me. Did you see? Cole and I haven't talked since vacation, so we're catching up on stuff as well. Did you see the Tim Robinson skateboarding sketch that somebody uncovered? Oh man, it's real good. There's a boy, and now I want to spoil it, but that's the thing when you bring up did you see? Because if the answer is no, you don't get to do anything.
I've got it open in a tab. I'll watch after we're done recording.
Yeah, well, you watch it between episodes.
Okay,
you gotta see it. But you'll see real heads. People who know the sketch will know the where I was going with the Molitar. Maybe.
Gotcha.
We're starting off in so the Dome of Desperal. We're starting out in his storehouse. This is where he keeps old paint cans, like boxes after he moved.
Broken appliances that maybe you'll get around to selling. Yeah.
Desperal always wants a project.
But yeah, you spawn with nothing in this gladiatorial kill box. There are the wizards firing at you from cage walls up above, and really there's little you can do because you just have your little shitty pistol wand. And you want to get out of here.
It's very, very difficult. So until you rebuild your arsenal, this level is going to be hard basically the whole way.
Yes.
There. And they introduce a new enemy here, the Ophidians. Which are cool snake looking dudes.
Yeah, the Nagas.
Little Nagas that shoot flame orbs.
Mm-hmm. Like half of the other enemies.
Yes, because there's an enemy problem in this. Even if the flame orbs looked like snakes, if they're just tossing snakes at you, I would have liked it more.
Yeah, they're tossing their offspring at you. Yeah.
These things are very durable. They have a lot of hit points.
Yeah.
And stuff. So it was really tricky since you don't have your hard hitting items.
The exit kind of takes you into some of the more built up areas, and each of these has had their own little palette to them, different spaces. What I love about the Dome of Desperal, because it is the peaceful underwater realm, is that a lot of the places are going to kind of look like your high school pool. If your high school had a pool, there's lots of mosaic walls with just waves kind of tiled onto them.
Desperal's got an aesthetic. He decorates it like an Airbnb.
I was going for a 1980s nauditorium kind of feel.
Yeah, if you unlock the right wave wall, you get to find a little sign that says "Live, Wine, Love" in a font
next to a list of things you're not allowed to do with the room you rented. And
then, if you're lucky, a 3-ring binder with like the absolutely most unhinged guide to a TV you've ever read. With blurry, like scanned fun saver pictures of angles of the remote control stuff. This leads us into the cesspool. Desperal has a proper sewer, not just a lava sewer.
Yeah. And this is where the spores are out in full force. We get these kind of narrow lanes full of these bad boys. Some of the spores multiply when you shoot them. Some of them don't. They kind of don't seem to go away entirely. So it's about clearing a path and then getting through. Yeah.
Yeah. Certain ones will regrow as well. Yeah. Not always. I think it depends on the level that you're in. So you this turns after you get past that, you turn to these little warren rooms that you go where you get the keys. They don't have a whole lot of ornamentation. There's not a lot to them. And you get to the end where an iron lich is guarding the exit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You open the door and there's just a guy. He's just
he just pops out. Bah.
This brings us to the confluence. Here, all of these things we didn't mention this before, but you get to see a little world map that shows how these connect between levels.
That's pretty important. I like that. That's a good effect.
I like it too. It gives you the sense of continuity.
Yeah,
to all of these,
like a Castlevania map.
Very similar. Yeah. This is the largest of the domes, the one at the center of Disparal's domes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and opens with this big arena battle in this large dome. This is where you're definitely going to see enemies kind of taking shots at each other. There's kind of they're doing this before you arrive. Yeah.
Disparal cannot keep his people chill at all. So everything that we've seen, or everything that you do in here, makes a trap open up nearby, which will pour out these like saber claws and were-dragons. Again, downside of the genre, they're just pouring enemies at you.
Yeah.
And you're picking up lots of stuff. Like you're not still, we just said you open this up without your weapons. You picked everything up by this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are good with ammo. It's just, there's a lot of things to use it on. It's the game. It's this weird little crossbreed between exploring and, just shooting guys, like a Musu game almost.
You'll pick up stuff. You'll pick up something that seems like it's brand new, like, oh, Inferno Orb, neat.
Yeah.
Turns out, no, that's actually just a lot of ammo for the fire mace. It's good. Yeah. I like using the fire mace. It's a neat weapon in both of its modes, but also, nothing really new mechanically here.
Nothing new to show you from here on out, which is kind of a bummer. Yeah. So it just becomes about juggling the things you already know. Yeah. After you get through this, the next level is the Azure Fortress. There's not really a hook to this. There's a lot of little monster jails. These are the people would not stop fighting in the confluence. Maybe they got put here. The main thing is the exit, which is tricky.
Yeah.
The switches are concealed.
Yeah. It's real, like, okay, you're running along and you don't see the little alcove where it's at because the alcove is kind of pointed away from your main entrance. But also as you're running back along these walls or through these rooms, it's also concealed there. So you kind of have to walk the perimeter to make sure that you're not missing it.
A little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
There's a bonus level for this chapter here that you can get to, the Aquifer. Several of these bonus levels, the other other episodes have a bonus level as well.
I couldn't find them.
You can either find them, you can also cheat to get into them. There were levels that are readily available in the multiplayer. Mm-hmm. I think it's in episode 1, the Graveyard is the bonus level, and it fucking sucks. It's hard.
Well, the Aquifer fucking sucks too. Like,
these are like challenge levels. Yeah, it's super hard. Also, not very much of an aquifer. So aquifer heads, you're going to go home with blue balls.
Yeah.
It's real short. There's this little throne room that acts as a hub that you can go through, and then just really tough enemy encounters on the outside of it. And the exit has the Iron Lich in a very, very small room, which is not where you want to fight them.
No, not with their big whirlwind attacks. Yeah. The next mandatory level that you do is the Ophidian Lair. It is very short, and we are firmly in the realm of walls open when you do stuff, kind of deal. It's not even just like when you pick something up. Sometimes it's just you'll walk into a particular, like, in order to open the way forward, you need to like explore this corner of the room, and then stuff will drop down. Yeah.
At least it finally answers where the Ophidians live.
Yes. Yeah.
In a lair. They're tough in these numbers because they have so much HP.
Yes.
So, they have their projectiles that they shoot out move at this kind of odd speed, which is a little bit tricky to get used to. Mm-hmm. But dodging was not as big a deal to me with these guys as ammo management.
Yes.
Because they just sucked up a lot of my resources.
Yeah. Yeah. And just they pile up. They're joining faster than you can put them down.
Yeah. This brings us into the Halls of Fear. The main portion of this level is this raised bridge that contains the main keys and gates, and the water level below has all the enemies and items that we can get to, and we're gonna go back and forth between those.
Yeah. This is this is one of the levels where I really feel the pain of press a switch and then go check the entire level to see if something changed. This is probably the greatest distance between a switch hit and then thing moved.
Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of see like it's interesting because like you can see the developers really trying to stretch the bounds of the tools that they've made to increase difficulty. Right.
Yeah.
Like they want this to feel like a dungeon. They want it to feel like it's full of traps and stuff like that. If you look at and you read old D&D modules, they're absolutely full of that shit.
Yeah.
Like Tomb of Horrors is full of you do something in room A and it causes something unrelated to happen in room F. I'm not trying to excuse it as good design. It's bad design there and it's bad design here.
Yeah.
It was 100% in the water as to what we thought a dungeon should be. Which is really strange. Like we figured it out. We got better.
Yes.
But we did not understand, we made Legend of Grimrock 2 eventually. Like we perfected a dungeon.
Yeah.
It took a while to get there though.
Yeah, I don't care for it. I really don't like. I mean, just go back and see any time when we complained about flags. Like, oh fuck, it's just all these flags.
Yeah,
it's a different version of the flagging problem, right?
Yeah.
Which is, again, I have to go check with everything and everybody and check every corner because something might have changed when I wasn't looking.
It's definitely on the list, like the short list of dungeon sins for me.
Yeah,
along with mazes with lots of dead ends. And not having landmarks, and teleporter traps, as just things that we should have left in the 80s.
I'm looking at you, Phantasy Star 2.
Yeah, why'd you do that?
Yeah, didn't have to. Yeah. You also have to do 3 switches in a row to lower the key to get the green one. Yeah.
At the end, there's a gate with multiple Molotars in it. Multiple Molotars.
Batman.
Jumping Jeep and Jillikers. Along with a bunch of spectral wizards covering them.
Yeah.
So that's fine. You get to the chasm here, the penultimate level, which is too many saber claws. What happens if we take a weak melee enemy and just give you dozens and dozens of them?
Yeah. In one chamber, and then the next one, there's even more of them, but now there are Ophidians firing from above.
Yeah. God help you if you don't have rocket launcher ammo.
Yeah.
For the saber claw room.
Yeah.
The next room that you get into is like full of these teleporters. It has the green key that you want to get, but there's a Molotar confined in it, and the space is very small. So what you want to do, and there are a couple of different places where you can do this, is get an angle on an enemy, especially if it's not a projectile enemy, where you can just kind of fish in a barrel them.
Yeah. Regrettably, the Molotar is a projectile enemy, so you have to really watch. The wind up on his fire attack is actually pretty short, so you have to really be ready to dodge out of the side. I died twice trying to fish in a barrel this guy.
You kind of just always have to be circle strafing.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing this game, you strafe more in a level than I do in a lifetime. And I strafe. Like, I didn't know the word for it until I started playing video games. So I was like, oh shit, I do that all the time.
I mean, it is the move if you're doing the Midwestern, just got to sneak around you there.
Yeah. Or if you're line dancing, like we had to do in gym class, tons of strafing going on there.
Yeah. So much.
The blue key is in this room across a bridge with this wind blowing.
Yeah.
And it's over a sea of acid. So like, be careful there.
And then this opens up this prominent central chamber where you got a couple of iron liches just for bonus. It ends with iron liches, just like 80% of the last, several levels.
Again, game needs more enemies.
Yeah.
This brings us to our final level, Despairal's Keep. And it's not just the boss fight. The first part is a stock up. They want you to have lots of ammo because the ending is a real long haul.
Mm-hmm.
You're going through these teleporters in this star-shaped water chamber to get ammo. You're fighting kind of token enemies, but really you're doing it to get ammo.
Yes.
You're getting more ammo than you spend.
Right. And then you finally enter this gigantic arena where Despairal is on top of his big serpent, his big Muppet-looking serpent guy.
It looks like a Violator from Spawn. For people who know Violator, and it's not very big. Like when I think of the Serpent Riders, I was expecting them to be like Dragon Riders, or big dragon kind of thing. It's like a little one of those little mounts from Golden Axe. It makes him as tall as a Molitar when he's riding it.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't look at anything like a gigantic, like it's literally a serpent, but it doesn't look like a big dragon.
It's
like
about as impressive as a horse is.
Yeah, it's like a 2-legged horse that has Violator for the top half. It's pretty dorky looking. Like I like that they committed to it, and it's a 2-phase boss fight. Yeah. You have to bring down his serpent. It's the Nameless King. You have to bring down the serpent and then fight Desperal, and they have different movesets and stuff. It's really ambitious and neat for the time. It's just hopelessly fucking dorky.
Yeah. Which is what I would want from dark fantasy Doom. Like you're not gonna get anything not dorky out of that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take this that seriously. You take down the serpent. It has these fire belches, and it's easy. The first phase is relatively easy. Then phase 2 begins with Desperal, who is much harder. He's got red robes. He teleports around, and he sends in his little wizard guys in through the teleporters. So you have to constantly chase Desperal while dealing with his ads.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of health.
So much.
Yeah. You really have to hammer it on him. Like, so it's about, I found my strategy was, prioritize the ads, like try to stay alone with Desperal as much as I could. And then just try to find him in a space where I could circle strafe him and just empty a clip. And by clip, there are no clips in this. I meant the entirety of, whatever weapon I was using.
You mean drop a mag into him? Yeah.
Yes. And it took several of such.
Yeah. No. So that's funny that you prioritize the ads. I found that this arena was big enough and I moved fast enough that I could just sprint away from any of these guys, and by the time he teleported away, when I got there, the other ones would only be halfway to getting to me. You can actually like stay ahead of the curve on them and only kill the ones that are incidentally in your way. I was on Desperal like a dog with a toy.
Yeah, I just kept getting sucker punch from behind from it when I was doing that.
Yeah.
So I think it probably was just how I was playing the rest of the game was, get rid of the ads, like clear everything out. Yeah. So it just kind of made sense for me. Regardless, which you take down Desperal. He just takes a bunch of hits. He doesn't have a lot of extra moves. Like it's different than a normal boss fight, but even the Iron Liches have more spells.
Yeah. He's got like a lightning spell kind of thing.
But you do get a legendary death animation. For him, where he falls down, gets kind of levitated up, similar to Agahim lifting up Zelda, in like a sphere of lightning, which then melts all of his flesh and clothes off until he's just a skeleton that crumbles onto the ground.
It's pretty good. His scream is great too.
Yeah. What a really good GIF. If somebody's looking for like an icon for a forum.
Yeah.
There you go.
Desperal's demise.
Yeah. And then we get some story stuff.
Yeah. Your character is thinking back on the events and realizing my work might not be done. That scream could have been a curse or a summoning. And of course, there are other serpent riders as well. Desperal is not the end of this.
Yep. Gotta get my revenge. You warp out, so we've loosened Desperal's grip on your plane, but we teleport out right as the underwater domes are beginning to collapse.
Yeah.
And, we got to go fight the other serpent riders. There's 2 more episodes of this, but then you go and fight most of them in Hexen. I think Hexen is where the next serpent rider is the boss, and then Hexen 2 is the third.
Yes.
And this was the weakest of them. So it really was set up for the long haul.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. And that's Heretic.
Yeah. My opinion holds up pretty well for what it is. Like a fun version of this. It's really hard to go back to boomer shooters of the era when like Dusk exists or Medieval exists. Like you can get this. It depends on how your authenticity sensitivities are set up, right?
Yeah.
Like a Medieval, which is aping this specifically. Heretic, like it's not, unlike Dusk, it doesn't feel it like there's something to the effort that makes it feel a little bit less genuine. Like it's genuinely affectionate, but it wouldn't have something as dorky as the Molotars in it. Like there is a unique flavor to actually going back to the source. And there's a historical interest in just seeing like, this is a cool thing they were doing back then. Like, we didn't really talk about it, but one of the things that happens a lot in this are secret doors behind secret doors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get into a secret room, you get underwhelming treasure, and then you're like, wait, that can't be it. And it's not it. You keep looking, it's the same stuff that you get into to get in the Great Hollow in Dark Souls. It's real neat to see that stuff in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
That is a cool feeling to me. And when it's fun, it's really fun. Like, it's a Doom clone. You're running around at light speed, circle strafe in the Monstrous Manual. It's real fun.
Yeah.
It's just not like, I think that more modern games that take the spirit of it tend to be better. Like, Dusk is a better game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I found myself, I kind of got it after a certain point, and this kind of became a little bit of a slog as it started repeating, because I was not necessarily interested in speedrunning stuff. Like, the level at which this would be engaging is not a way that I really enjoy playing these games. And I found myself wanting like something that had these trappings and these aesthetics, but with all of the kind of advances in encounter design and level design that have come in the intervening time. So like, I want something that captures the feeling of playing this more than I would like actually having playing the thing itself. So I think that I fall on I want something on the other side, of the authenticity gap kind of deal. It was neat going back and seeing this, again, it's fun going back in time, but it did wear out its welcome. And I especially like, when you're playing it and figuring out, okay, what do I need to say about this? Just really putting a lot of effort into finding something else to say besides, there's an iron lich at the end of this.
Yeah, there's 4 Ophidians.
Right.
It kind of has a very limited design space. What's interesting playing this after, or like, I played it contemporaneously with when we were doing the prep for the arcade episode, is that they work as arcade games, like as a sit down and blast them. It does some work, in my opinion. It's just, right now we can get that with a more complicated carb.
Yes.
I have nostalgia for this too, which is part of it. Like, I played all of these when they came out, basically.
Yeah.
On my cousin's computer or my uncle's computer, which I talked about before. So I have a lot of affection.
Yeah.
Just memory affection. And I'm way more of a Dragon kid than a Demons on Mars kid. So this cool cloaked guy seemed cooler to me than Doom guy. Like, this fired my inner teen a bunch as well. So, but it's kind of hard to recommend. Like, I think if you're in the pocket for this kind of thing, it's historically important.
Yeah.
If you just want to play a good video game and see the best version of what this type of game design can do, which is genuinely great, play Dusk.
Yeah.
Or play a Medieval.
Yeah.
Both of which are great games.
It took me a second to not to understand that you were not recommending people play Medieval, that platformer.
Yeah,
I was
gotta play Medieval. Play Medieval.
The one they just remastered that wasn't very
gotta
good.
Play Decap Attack. If you want to understand what's good about Doom, you have to play Decap Attack.
Right.
I will be answering no questions.
I was missing the amid in that.
Yes. Yeah. A Medieval is the medieval kind of more melee focused version of Dusk, basically. Same developer, everything, but they're remaking all the old boomer shooter archetypes.
Yeah,
it's great. Can't wait for Gloomwood to be in final form.
Same.
No. Thanks, Abe.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. If you have anything to say about Heretic or any of our games that we're doing here for January, which are What Remains of Edith Finch, Heretic, and Hades, please send us a message at Duckfeed.tv/contact by January 15th.
Yeah. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please separate them into multiple responses. That just makes it easier for us to put the final thing together. If you have thoughts about February's games, which are
Luca, Born of a Dream, Citizen Sleeper, and Subnautica.
Yeah. The deadline for that is February the 15th. Again, duckfeed.tv/contact. We're looking forward to hear what you think.
Yeah. As of now, as of recording this, Citizen Sleeper is on sale on pretty deep discount on the old Switch and Steam.
Nice.
So check that out. If you are a non-cis, non-straight, non-white non-dude person, and you have a project you'd like us to plug, please send me an email at gary@duckfeed.tv. This episode, I want to draw some attention to the TG podcast, which is on YouTube, from Lindsay19. She is a trans lady who is talking about her journey and kind of her sexuality and stuff, and being into kink and everything, which are things I don't know very much about.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it valuable, right? It's a fairly new channel. So you can find that on YouTube at TGBDSM, and it's Lindsay19. And check her out.
Yeah. Additionally, I recently guested on a podcast. Let's see here. Our friend Doug, Friends of the Network supporter, does a show called Nostalgium Arcanum. I just was on an episode about Myst, talking about the way that Myst factored into my childhood, that kind of stuff. Oh, it was a good time. Yeah, Nostalgium Arcanum.
Cool. Very good. And we will be back next week to talk about Hades. That is a premium episode for everyone. So that means everybody gets the full episode. And then patrons at patreon.com/duckfeed.tv at $5 a month get the full thing. Yeah, including that arcade special I alluded to earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was a whole extra
We forgot how to do admin. It's only been a week and a half, and we totally fucking forgot how to do admin.
It's okay. We'll get it back. It's fine.
We'll get it back. Hopefully this week. Until next time, what can they do, Cole?
Until next time, don't open that door. There's going to be an iron lich behind it.